All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Property Players, the podcast here where we're talking all things real estate. Today, got an awesome guest for you guys. Again, always adding value, always giving you guys what you want to hear to answer questions and things of that nature when it comes to real estate. But this is a guy that we've been connected over the past few months. What's probably been 6 months. When did the Disrupt Tour happen?
I want to say that was June 1st,
June
2018. Yeah.
There we go. June of this year. So, 4 or 5 months that we've been connected. And this is just a guy that, we just hit it off. I knew that he knew his stuff in real estate. So I wanted to bring him on the podcast. So without further ado, Mr. Nick Ahrens, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Super happy to be here. And it's been great knowing you and super glad that we connected as well at the Disrupt Tour.
Absolutely. Likewise. And, I've said it over and over again. Life is just about relationships, right? It's just about who we know and then building those relationships, adding value, having mutually beneficial relationships. So I know that we're going to continue to stay connected, and you've already been done a lot for me, and vice versa, being on the podcast and everything. So again, welcome in, but let's just jump straight in. Tell us who Nick Ahrens is, right? Like, take me through the origin story. Tell me, right, how we got to this point.
So how we got to this point. So born and raised in San Clemente, California. For those of you who don't know, it's a little beach town in Southern California. Little, I mean, about 80,000 people, but it's kind of uniquely situated. It's quite isolated. It only connects to one other city. And to one side, we have ocean. To two sides, we have Camp Pendleton, largest military base in the country. And we've got one city connected to the north side of us. So it does have a little bit of an isolated feeling. Grew up, small surf town, always at the beach, surfing, playing water polo, swimming.
You surfed as a kid a lot, huh?
Oh, yeah. My dad actually used to shape surfboards on the North Shore of Hawaii for a number of years.
No way.
And so he had me in the water since I can remember. It's kind of like walking for me. Most people don't really remember learning how to walk. I don't really remember learning how to surf.
Sure.
It's just something I knew how to do.
Just happened.
Yeah. And very fortunate to have very loving, kind parents. Grew up.
What did your parents do for work? Like the entire time? Like, what did they do?
My dad had his own small business. He was a chiropractor in town.
Okay.
And my mom helped a lot of back end stuff and a lot of HR stuff there.
Got it.
And so then
continue.
Yeah. Ended up, I had put in enough work and time and training hours to end up going to a Division I school for water polo. I went to USC, graduated USC. And while I was there, fell in love with a beautiful Swedish lady. And moved to Sweden with her for actually about 15 months during the immigration process, knowing the whole time I wanted to get into real estate. And so I started asking all my fraternity brothers, all my buddies back home, everybody I could get in contact with, hey, what are some books on flipping homes, investing in homes, just about property in general, how to build properties from the ground up, how to become a real estate agent. That's a world that I knew I wanted to get into.
Why did you know that? Like, did you know people that were in real estate? Did you just always see homes? Did you have a love for it? Like, how did it come about?
That's actually a good question. I'm not exactly sure. Ever since I was a little kid, I always would drive by for sale signs and go, that looks fun. That looks like something I want to do, something I want to get involved in, helping people move and play matchmaker and get them into the right house.
Got it.
Really didn't know exactly how the business was run, but for some reason, just something was telling me, just get into the industry.
Sure. And
what really struck a chord with me while I was in Sweden was flipping homes. And that was back in 2011, 2012. So when I came back, I was out of money because Sweden it's expensive over there, as everybody who's been there knows.
Got it.
And I couldn't work. I was on a tourist visa. So I was just reading and playing water polo and hanging out.
That's actually pretty sweet life, though, just so you know, right? Like, and here's what's funny, Nick, right? We always learn stuff about each other. I played polo also.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in high school, and I grew up on the East Coast. So I grew up in Philly, and at my school, we had water polo, and it was just a fluke thing that I got into it because in middle school, I played soccer. right? And soccer was a fall sport, and polo wound up being a fall sport. And then a couple of the people that I played soccer with, when we got into freshman year, they said, hey, you should come out for polo. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, never played polo, but I was a swimmer as a child, right? As a child, I just loved the water, and I was a swimmer. I swam on a swim team for some time, and I played basketball and all the other ball sports that you would play. So it gave me really good hand-eye coordination. So I was like, sure, I'll try it out. I wound up getting into polo and was really good. Was really good at it, right? Got like, I don't know, some player of the, but most improved player of the year, right? Like my sophomore, my junior year, I wind up getting a scholarship to a small college called Ursinus College for polo. But I didn't want to play polo long term. I was like, I was just doing this for fun because it was school, and I'm not going to go to school and play polo. Like that's not it, right? So, but I have a love for polo. So anybody that has played polo, we have an instant bond, Nick.
Oh, exactly. We've all been there. We've all played it. It's kind of like a fraternity in a sense.
Absolutely.
And it's a small world. The water polo world is a very, very small world. And yeah, a lot of us have that opportunity to go to university and play college water polo. And some of us use it as a tool to get in the right direction. For some people, it's not the university we would really want to go to. And there's no pro water polo out there. So right, what the heck are we going to do afterwards?
Exactly. That was always my dilemma. It's like, why am I going to continue to do this? Like, where does that lead to? Like, I just play in the Olympics every 4 years. Like, is that it? So that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. So either way, we digress, right? So you're back from Sweden. You're back from Sweden. How did it start to go when you were flipping homes and then moving forward in the industry?
So when I first got back from Sweden, I was kind of in an odd spot because my wife and I had moved back with my parents because we didn't really have enough money. I didn't have any income. She didn't have any income. So I was actually out surfing with a buddy of mine, and purposely, as loud as I could in the water, I said, yeah, as he was a long ways away from me. And anybody who knows Lower Trestles, there's probably 50, 60 people in a small, tiny little area, about the size of a small office. That's where everybody has to take off on the wave. And he was on the other side of the pack of people. And I said, yeah, if you know anybody looking for a USC grad who's looking to hire a USC grad, let me know. And one of the guys in the water turns around and goes, you want a job? And I said, yep. He said, I have my own window cleaning company. I said, done. Let me know. And he turns around and takes a wave all the way to the shore. And I went, crap, what do I do? Yeah. So I paddled straight in, got the first wave all the way in, went up to him and said, hey, what the heck's going on here? He goes, oh yeah, here's my company name. Just give me a call. Don't worry, it'll get set up. I went, all right. So,
it was just that easy, right? Like just grad done. Hey, let me yell out in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. I need a job. That's funny.
It turns out him and I ended up knowing a bunch of people. Super rad guy, Christian Dorn. And I was saving up so we could move out, and then saved up and we had about 6 months of income as I was studying for six months of money to be able to live off of, as I had just finished up getting my real estate license. Okay. And so I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go for it. And by this point, my wife and I, we had moved out. We were in our own place, had about 6 months of money. And I said, I got to do it. And she is actually the one who set me up with an individual who was flipping homes. Got to know him. He took me under his wing, and it was a phenomenal experience. I am so blessed to be able to be in that type of environment, especially with a group of guys who are flipping homes. To give you guys kind of a perspective on the market here and the volume they were doing, the average price point in our area is about 800,000, 900,000. Nice. And these guys were flipping probably anywhere from 40 to about 75 homes a year.
Wow.
So we always had a bunch of projects going on. And so they kind of trained me to do the whole thing start to finish, from evaluating a property before purchase, what the numbers would look like breakdown wise for the rehab, then how to buy it, then how to rehab it, how to essentially subcontract out all the work, follow it all the way through the sale, and then have a new buyer for it.
Wow. So they basically showed you the ropes. They taught you exactly how to go from point A to point Z in flipping.
Yeah. I was hardly making any money doing it. But the experience I gained from that is something that really separates me from a lot of other agents in the area here. So I can walk into a kitchen and somebody says, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think granite countertops will cost to install on this property?" And I can go, "Okay, it looks about that big. I know a guy who can do it for probably about $7,000." They go, "Well, that's either more or less expensive," but I can give them kind of ballpark numbers
Sure.
for different things on the spot.
Yeah. And so, right, I think that's a great place to kind of stop and just talk a bit, because there's a lot of people probably listening to the podcast that want to get into real estate investing at some point if you're not already an investor. And a lot of times I've come across it, Nick, people are just like, I don't know how to start, or I don't have the money, or whatever the case is. But the biggest thing that you did and why you're successful now is because you were able to go in and learn and not make any money, right? Make very little money, but you were getting paid in what I call soft dollars, right? Which is the knowledge, it's the information, so that now in your career, you can make that assessment when you walk into that person's house. Give the people some value, Nick. Like, what someone that's feeling that they want to get started in the flipping, right, fix and flipping arena. Like, what should they do? Would you recommend that they like find someone doing it and get a mentor type of thing and reach out, or like how would they start?
Oh yeah, I would absolutely recommend teaming up with somebody who's done it at a high level a lot of times. Whether you have no money, a little money, or if you've got $30 million, you're trying to turn over again and again and again, year after year after year. It's not something I would advise people to just jump straight into.
Why
Throughout
not?
it, I've seen a lot of flips done. I've ran numbers on flips that other people have done, and some people are buying properties at $700,000, trying to sell them at $900,000, and are losing money because they had to put so much work, time, and energy and money into the actual property, and they didn't calculate out the numbers correctly from the get-go, from the beginning. And so to be able to have some sort of a mentorship or some sort of a mentor, some sort of partner you can invest with is huge. It's extremely important. And just every county has trustee sales, properties that go into foreclosure and they get auctioned off at the courthouse.
Got it.
Go and meet every single person over there. A lot of them will be guarded. Hardly any of them will talk to you in the beginning, but just keep showing up, keep running the numbers, go see what properties are coming up and what they're buying them for in the gap there. That'll give you kind of a general idea of who's buying what in what price range and for what gaps. Guys right now really aren't making a whole lot of money on it as well, which is another caution because the market's so good. A lot of people are doing it. And so margins have slimmed tremendously. Now, if the market goes through a correction, that might change a bit, but you don't need a whole lot of money to actually get started in it. A lot of people take the route of wholesaling real estate, which is finding distressed properties and essentially being a middleman to an investor. Finding a distressed property, essentially telling somebody, hey, I can help you get rid of your property and all your debt for this amount of money, and then you sell the property to an investor who will buy it cash, usually in about a week or 10 days, and you'll get maybe $5,000 or $10,000 commission from that. And so that's also another good way to get started.
So that's called wholesaling, correct?
Yeah, wholesale real estate.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of people out there that, right, if you don't have much money, right, that's a way that I know also that you can get into the investor side of real estate without any money, without any credit, without anything. You can just go in. But again, I think, and you hit this and it was subtle, but like it's about the relationships you're building, right? If you go to one of those courthouse auctions, right? Yeah, some people might just be looking at the properties. Some people might just be trying to buy that home there, like, oh yeah, that's undervalued or whatever the case is. But other people, like you said, Nick, you should go there to meet people, right? Yeah. You should go there to shake some hands. And like, these are people that are already investing. They already know where to go. They probably already have capital, right? So even just learning from them and networking with them at that place could help you get in the door. If they are an investor and then you want to get into wholesaling, right? Then at the end of the day, go find it. And then guess what? You met them at the courthouse, right? Now you know you have an investor, but it all comes down to talking to people. And I think that's a lost art form. I think it's a lost art form. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And learning how to create relationships with people where you're continuously adding value. And it's continuously giving as much as you possibly can to these people. Go offer to work for them for free, or just say, hey, if you give me gas money and lunch money, I will drive and get as much information as I can on whatever properties you're interested in, and just get to know these individuals and build those relationships. Exactly like you said, it's extraordinarily important to have that, especially in real estate, because the 80-20 rule doesn't apply in real estate. It's more about 95-5. And about 5% of the people probably do about 95% of the business.
Wow.
That's kind of how, that's kind of generally what I've seen here.
Sure.
And to be able to have good relationships with not only investors, but other agents, deals will end up coming your way because they go, you know what, this isn't going to make me enough money. Do you know anybody for this property? And because maybe they can just pass it off to somebody else because they're not interested, or they're too busy, or they've got their money tied up in 15 or 30 other different projects that they're currently working on, and they don't have the liquid capital to be able to move into a new deal.
Sure.
And it could just be a fantastic deal they don't have the money for at the moment.
Absolutely.
And so by knowing these people, stuff's going to come in front of you.
It's all about the relationships, Nick. You definitely hit the nail on the head there. So let's fast forward and get to where you're at now, right? So you were working with some people, they taught you how to flip, right? So then how did you transition into being an actual buyer? Because you're an agent for both buyers and sellers, yes?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so I still work with a couple investors. I don't do nearly as much of that anymore. Mainly because I get a lot more joy out of resale, out of helping people buy homes and people sell homes and actually move in them and move from them, than I do out of real estate investing. And so that's where my real passion lies. And so what ended up happening, to kind of continue that story to where I'm at now, is I always knew I wanted to start a team. A huge passion of mine is coaching and mentoring and helping people grow as much as possible. And so I went to a conference on starting and joining real estate teams, and ended up going up to the guy afterwards who invited me to this conference and said, all right, I got to meet these two individuals who were on stage. And met one of them, showed me his business plan, showed me his business model, very humble, super open about everything. And I said, where the heck do I sign up? And that's been one of the best decisions of my life. You can see my shirt here, the Reed Team shirt. That's reedteamhomes.com. That's where you can find us. We're one of the best in Orange County, hands down.
And just really quick, you got to them by asking, right? I want people to hear this on the podcast, right? Like, you got to them because you were at this conference and you said, I really want to talk to those people. And you asked the right questions so that you could be in front of, I take it, the broker or the owner, I take it?
It's the owner of our team.
Okay.
However, we don't treat it that way in the sense here. We have everybody kind of on an even playing field, to where even he has just as much weight just in decisions we make as I do, as the newest person on the team does. That's hugely important to us in our internal culture. But
is that one of the things that caused you to choose them? Like, what were some of the deciding factors? Because there's probably people out there that are trying to figure out like where they should go. What were some of your keys?
One, first and foremost, was me being humble in my approach. Like you said, it's asking the right questions to the right people, and just go ahead and ask for favors from people. Don't ask for a lot of work and a huge amount of favors. Just ask for an introduction. What's the worst thing that can happen? Somebody says no. And when I got to know Jimmy, I had to be very honest and humble with myself and say, hey, here's who I am. Here's my experiences. Here are my pitfalls. Here's what I'm horrendous at. Here's where I need to learn. Here's what I need. Here's some skill sets that I need refining. And here's what I'm good at. And this is who I am. And being that humble, he did the exact same thing back with me. He said, here's my team, get to know them. Here's my systems. Here's my model. Here's our structure. Here's how you can grow your business within my business. Here's how I plan to grow my business and take it from here. And it was that level of communication that made everything kind of line up. Sure. In a sense. And we said, this is going to work really well together, and personalities fit together. And well, here we are. kicking ass.
That's important, right? That's important. If your visions have got to line up, right? I'm glad you said that. Like a lot of people, right? You know what I'm in financial services, right? So I also am one of the people that I'm always sharing the vision of where we're going. And I'll just tell you, right? Some people buy in, some people don't, right? And if it's not a good fit, that's okay, right? Like we're looking for the people that it is a fit for, and that our vision and our goals can be similar to theirs, and they can build their business inside of my business, right? It's the exact same stuff, but being able to have that communication. I'm glad you said that. It's about having that communication with the people you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the other reasons I joined where I'm at now is obviously our business goals aligned. A lot of our personal goals in our lives also aligned as well. And the level of training and mentorship that I'm able to receive here, and the amount of team collaboration that we do, is on a whole nother level beyond what I've seen from just about anywhere else.
Sure. That's awesome, man.
And
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so that culture, that vibe, and those systems and models we use are all reasons why I joined a team. Now, if you're somebody listening to this and considering joining a team, ask to have that team lead show you their business model. Ask questions. Ask as many questions as you possibly can to find out as much information as you possibly can. And they're probably going to do the same thing to you, and be as honest as possible, because the more open that team leader is, the more likely I would tell you, join that team.
Absolutely.
If it looks like there's smoke and mirrors, if it looks like they're evading questions and not answering them, or they just can't come up with numbers or results, get out of there. It's not for you. Go somewhere else.
Absolutely. That is solid advice right there. I can't tell you the amount of times I've sat in front of anybody in a leadership position and they can't talk to me about their business, right? It does seem like there's smoke and mirrors. It does seem like there's things that are missing that I can't, right? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And when those things happen, those are clear red flags. That's awesome, man. So now you're a buyer's agent and a seller's agent. Which one do you like better? Do you have a preference?
That's a good question. I love working with first-time home buyers. I find their level of appreciation for what we're able to provide them, and the level of service we're able to provide them, they often get blown away from their expectations of saying, this is going to be the most stressful moment of my entire life. And we handhold them all the way through the process and through the home ownership process as well. And the amount of appreciation they have is phenomenal, and I love it. I also love selling homes, thinking about how to market a home properly, going through the whole process start to finish, and really being able to do that. I do find a lot of joy in that as well.
Got it. What challenges are you finding right now that's happening in the industry? Right. What are some big hurdles, some things that are going on that maybe people don't know about, or maybe people do, but from your perspective?
From my perspective, obviously we've seen a shift in the market. This, we're in mid-October 2018, and beginning of October 2018, sorry.
Time flies, right? Like we're always thinking about the next week.
Exactly. I'm already planning for Q1 2019.
Stay present. Stay present, Nick. Stay present.
Okay. I'm back. Sorry. You saw me start to drift away. My body language changed. That was hilarious. Thank you for bringing me back.
You're welcome.
So what we've seen about 6 months ago in the market was a drastic a shift from heavily favoring sellers. Properties were getting 8, 10. We had a property that had 14 offers on it in the first weekend.
Wow.
Everything was getting outbid. To now we're in a dead even market. It's not really favoring buyers or sellers, and it's caused a lot of panic amongst the public. And what I always tell people is, who cares? That people are still going to be moving. There's still plenty of business out there. From an agent's perspective, I would tell you this: if there's going to be 30,000 deals in my county this year, and I only need to sell 100 of them, that's what, 0.3%?
Sure.
It's nothing. It's tiny, tiny, tiny sliver. And that's 100 homes.
Right.
That's a lot of people I can help. If you're a potential buyer and you're kind of seeing that shift in the market, what I always tell people is, well, take the example of Interest rates going up and prices dropping a little bit. You're still going to pay the same monthly payments. Now, if interest rates go up and prices drop quite a bit, and you're paying $3,000 a month in rent for 3 years, there goes over $100,000 you just spent. So prices would have to drop, well, way more over than $100,000 to have it make sense for somebody to wait. Real estate's about the long-term game. Some of the other challenges we're seeing are discount agents. A lot of agents are discounting themselves and discounting their commissions, and it's really hurting the communities out there and sellers out there as well.
How so? Like how are agents like discounting themselves? What does that mean?
So they're reducing their commissions drastically, or giving a lot of their commission back to the seller of a home.
So literally agents are out there saying, hey, you don't have to pay a 6%. I'll take 3 and pay closing costs or stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or we get things like Purple Bricks for, I think it's a $3,400 flat fee. They'll go ahead and sell your property. But when we start digging into the numbers and the data behind it, their marketing is garbage.
Right.
We've actually taken over many of their listings in the past several months because they're not getting showings. And people are paying actually to get out of Purple Bricks contracts.
Yeah. Do you think that's the way the industry is going to go though? Like, do you think eventually it'll get to that place where like it's just companies, you say you pay us a flat fee, we sell your house, done? You see it happening like that?
I don't. A lot of people do, but I personally don't, because I think every house needs to be marketed very, very differently, especially here where we've got hills, and our price point here, like I said, our average price point, well, here in San Clemente is about $1.4 million.
That's average.
And that's average. And so there's a lot of specifics that need to go into it, and a lot of strategic marketing that needs to go in it. And you need to analyze big data behind the property to see how that goes into it. And then you've got to come up with a whole marketing strategy from before the market, while it's on the market, how to push the property out to buyers looking to buy for that home in that particular area. And that costs money to do. And so, for example, like the Purple Bricks example, we showed them their property on Zillow. Over the last week, only had one view. One person on Zillow saw their house in a week. And we had a property on the market that had about 458 views. It was only on the market for 4 days.
Wow.
So
and let's go down that path, right? Not to cut you off, but what are you doing to show homes now? Like, are you using technology? Because again, we touched on the Disruptor that we were a part of, the Disrupt event, and that was one of the premises of that conference, was that, you know what, industries are changing, industries are getting disrupted left and right. So now we have to do things differently. And I know you're one of the guys that's ahead of the curve and really getting things done. So what's changed? Like, what are you doing differently to get 400 plus views on that? Well,
one is we have a whole marketing staff, a whole marketing team. Again, coming back to that team concept, we have a marketing team, we have a photography team, we have a graphics design team. We've got access to a big data on what demographics of people are actually moving into that particular community. And with all of that combined, we're able to really laser focus what we do. A single agent simply cannot do that. A single agent just by themselves, or a husband-wife team, simply cannot do that. Or a discount agent. They're not going to have the money to pay one of the top real estate marketing firms in the country a lot of money to be able to push the home through a lot of different avenues. Obviously, as you mentioned, one of the big topics at the Disruptor was social media and the takeover of it. And that's, if you're not on social media, get on social media.
Absolutely.
Just do it. I'm telling you right now, get on there, have a presence on there, and start building it.
What advice would you give that person if there's a new agent, right, listening to the podcast, and they are kind of on social, but right, their broker or the people that they're working with are telling them the traditional path, right, door knocking, flyers, those type of things. What do you tell them to do to get started initially?
I would say a handful of things. Follow your broker's advice. if they know what they're doing and they've helped a lot of top producing agents, go watch what those top producing agents are doing. Ask them questions. Say, hey, when you first started, how did you get your business? And do you think those same tactics or strategies would work today? If they say yeah, boom, implement them. Now, on top of that, you've got to go onto Facebook and you've got to go onto Instagram and you've got to really business up your page. Don't create two separate pages. The only reason for somebody to create two separate pages, in my opinion, is because there's things in their life they're trying to hide from their professional clientele. And if that's the case, then they probably have some personal things that they need to change about themselves and some habits they need to change about themselves in order to really grow in the business anyhow. And so that'll be a good stepping stone for you, is get rid of the personal, go only business. Now, that said, your business page, you're going to want to run about 3/4 of that as a personal page. And you're only going to want to run about 25 to 30% of that as business posts. Yeah. Because nobody likes to see just stats again and again and again and again.
People miss that all the time, Nick. Like, it's one thing that I wish I could really just, like, you know, if you could like strangle people in Facebook, right? Like, I just, like, every time I see the page and it's just post after post after post about what they do, or like something, like, it's like, listen, I am not going to look at you because I don't want to just be bombarded with your thing, right? Show me something else about you. Talk about, I'll look at anything else outside of like just what you do. Now, once in a while to throw it in there, fine, right? It's what you do. Business is a big part of your life, whether it's real estate or any other business, right? That makes sense. But at the end of the day, right, it can't be everything. It can't be 100% of your posts. So I'm glad you told people. What were those percentages again? You said 75-25?
Yeah, I would say about 75-25. Because just look at the name, social media. It's social. People want to interact with you and who you are. People follow celebrities on social media. Who's killing it right now? The Rock and Will Smith are on fire on social media. And what are they doing? They're not posting about their business, really.
Right.
They're posting about their personal life. They're posting about things they're grateful for, their friends, their family. And we feel like we have a one-way friendship with them. And that's what they've created. They've also created a sense of community within their page. Those are two huge ideas, not necessarily easy to implement, but people who can do that well will succeed in the social media environment very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And that last part that you said, community is everything. That's why we do this podcast, right? It's to just constantly build community. I don't want anything from the listeners. You don't want anything from the listeners. We just want to be able to give value, but then create community so that we can all continue to move dialogue forward, to answer questions, concerns, be resources, right? That's real community. And that's what social media is used for. I think social media gets a bad name, a bad rep a lot of times, but like for people like us that use it for business, to advance business and to really just build community, have dialogue, it's so important. It's so important. So I'm glad you touched on that point for social media. But are you doing anything else that is different to move your business forward, to either get open houses? I know that you had said that you were doing some neat things. That was also social media though, but for open houses, right? Was it like, are you doing lives, or were you doing lives for open houses or something like that? I don't remember. I think you had said something, but if not, then that's okay. Somebody else.
Yeah, but we do a handful of lives for at open houses every once in a while.
Facebook targeting. That's what you had talked about.
Facebook targeting. That's it. Yeah.
Facebook targeting for open houses. And what's the average amount of people you have getting to your open houses?
It depends. Obviously, as you know, and as we mentioned here, the market did shift quite tremendously. Yeah. In the spring, we were getting usually 75 to 100 people per open house.
Wow, that's big.
And now when we really advertise and market an open house in certain communities, we're still getting usually about 30, 45 people per open house.
That's awesome.
So we're still getting pretty good numbers. Also, as an agent, I would highly recommend any new agent do as many open houses as you possibly can.
Why?
Because people are going to open houses for one reason. They're looking to buy a house.
Sure.
And you just put up a bunch of signs, and you know what? People are going to drive to the open house and drive to go and meet you because they want to buy a house. It may not be that house, but these are all potential buyers going to you.
Absolutely. That's smart.
For free.
For free. Right. Those are free leads. That's what we call them. We call them free leads. So
yeah. Now you might only get 1 or 2 conversations or 1 or 2 people through the door in a 5-hour window, but hey, that's free. Just takes a little time to set up signs and take down signs. That's it. And you can work while you're there.
That's it. What do you spend most of your day doing now, Nick? Like,
it really depends day to day. I've got a bunch of buyers I'm working with. I've got a handful of sellers that were prepping their houses for the market. So I've been doing a lot of that end and a lot of follow-up. A lot of people who are looking to buy in the next 3 months. And then I've got another whole group that are looking to buy about 4 to 10 months or 6 to 10 months out. So keeping everybody up to date on the market, the trends, what's going on, and starting to narrow things down to different communities and floor plans and provide as much value as I can so that they feel confident when they do go to buy a house.
Sure. In your opinion, what does it take to be a good agent? Like, what does it take? Because I'm sure there's a lot, like you said, 95.5, right? There's a lot of people trying to make it happen. But in your opinion, like, what does it take to be a good realtor or real estate agent?
Well, I think it comes back to what you mentioned: communication, conversation, building genuine relationships with people.
Sure.
Because think about it, I'm helping somebody with a problem that's likely going to be the biggest investment they'll ever have in their lives. A $500,000 over here is going to get somebody a condo, and that's a $500,000 condo, right, with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, with connected to 3 or 4 different people. And that's a lot of stress on somebody to navigate that process, negotiate. And it takes a lot of willingness to genuinely help and provide value and comfort for these people so they feel comfortable from start to finish all the way through. And I would tell you to ask yourself this: at what point do you feel anxious or stressed in the transaction period or in that relationship building period? And at what point through a transaction do you often feel stress, or your client feels stress or some sort of anxiety or angst or whatever the negative emotion may be?
Right. That's
probably caused by you. I'm going to tell you right now, that's 99% of the time caused by the agent.
Why? How does it happen?
It can happen for a lot of different reasons. Not setting expectations correctly, not being ahead of things, not knowing what's going to happen next in the transaction, and then forecasting 3 steps ahead and already putting out those fires before your client even sees them. All of that stuff is extraordinarily, extraordinarily important. And remain calm during the whole thing, because if I start to freak out, my client's going to start to freak out.
Absolutely.
If I say, oh yeah, the mortgage company just called me and yeah, we can't get a loan. We're going to fall out of escrow, but don't worry. It's, I got you. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan. I already got you set up with this other company. I'm going to introduce you to him later today. I've already talked to him about your situation, your income, and everything else. And we're going to try to salvage this escrow. But if not, we're going to find a new house that's going to come to the market soon. I've got a couple ideas and we're going to run through it.
Yeah. Wow.
That sounds quite comfortable.
Absolutely. I would be comfortable with that, right? Like if you were helping me, I'd be like, yes, sure, Nick, anything that you say.
or there are 3 kind of approaches. One is the real salesy approach. This would be the second possible approach of, yeah, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's all good. Everything's going to work out just fine. I got you. We're going to find another house for you. Everything's going to be great. Don't worry about it.
Right.
You're kind of going, that's kind of off-putting.
Right.
It's weird.
Right.
Or the third option is the, oh shit, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
What the hell do we do?
Right.
Which is, I don't know how to tell you this, but our lender can't do the deal right. And I think the seller is going to cancel the contract on us.
Right. Where does that leave me? I'd be like, so then what do we do? Right. Like you just,
you
gave.
What do you do? Find a new agent.
That would be the thing to do in that case. Right. And it's funny because I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with that agent already. Right. That doesn't know how to handle it.
And you know what? I was that agent at the beginning of my journey in this industry. I was.
Yeah.
And then I turned into the salesy guy. And now I'm working on being that guy who forecasts so far ahead
Mhm.
that everything's just going to run smooth.
Yeah.
And we got it.
Absolutely. It's funny
And,
because in my business, I say the same thing. I just label it. We call it the awkward stage, the mechanical stage, and then the natural stage.
mm-hmm.
Right. So that's literally what you just said, right? Like the beginning, it's super awkward. You don't know the words. So you're that Debbie Downer, just telling them all the news that they don't need to hear, right? Because it's awkward for you because you've never faced that situation before. But then you get into the mechanical phase, right? The mechanical stage is when you actually are salesy because you've been taught sales. So you understand it. So now you're just rattling it off, even though it's maybe a little disingenuous, right? Or it's not
Yeah.
really what is supposed to be said. And then you transition into the natural stage where the first example where it just makes you feel comfortable. You just know that like you're putting them at ease, but that takes time. How long did it take you to get all the way to where you're at right now?
A long ass time.
That's a good answer.
And you know what? That's something I'm probably going to be working at for the rest of my entire real estate career.
Absolutely.
And it's something that's personal development, it's interpersonal skills, communication skills. Those are all things that I am going to continuously work on and really dive deep on throughout my entire career.
Yeah.
And to get where I'm at now, to put things into perspective, I've had my license for 5 years. I've been an active agent for 4 years.
Awesome. And
yeah,
you've gone through those stages, right? Like learning
yeah.
the entire time. And that's really what it's about, right? Real estate, just like any industry that you're really starting out, it's a learning curve, right? But at the end of the day, if you lead from a place of adding value, if you lead from a place of doing what's right, it's just a people business. Just another people business. That's all it is. So that's awesome, man. We're going to get wrapped up here in a second, but I always want to talk to agents. This is always a funny question for me. And if you could recollect, give me a crazy agent story, right? Like you're dealing with a buyer or you're dealing with a seller.
Jeez, which one? I mean, do you have another 4 hours, 5 hours?
I'm sure, but give me like a really good one, Nick. Like give me like a really juicy one that either was like sucked like, completely or not. But tell me that story.
I'll give you two.
Okay, give me two.
One of them's real quick, real short. Had to do when I was working with guys at the trustee sale, and so these properties are going into foreclosure. They're going into auction. They're usually super run down. Sometimes they're vacant. They're empty. And if you can gain access to a home and know the inside of it, you're going to have a huge advantage on the actual property when you go to buy it. And there was one property that, well, I wasn't supposed to be there. Somebody called the cops on me.
Nick, I can't imagine anybody calling the cops on you, just so you know. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, normal, professional-looking white dude in the middle of one of the safest cities in all of Orange County, sitting in handcuffs and nice shoes, nice pants, and a dress shirt.
That is hilarious. I would have paid anything to see that. Did anybody take a picture? Does anybody have a picture of that?
I don't know. If you do, send it to me. I would love to see it. Not a highlight moment for me.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So you got arrested. Anyway. So you got like, did you actually, did you get arrested? Like,
there were about 6 cops surrounding the property, guns drawn. And I was on the second level looking down at it going, oh shit, how do I get out of here without getting shot? So I waited till they went around the front of the building, and then I opened the back door and just shot my hands out sideways, and then just kept them in the air, didn't move, and waited for him to come around and see me with hands in the air.
Smart. Because if that were me, I would have been shot. Just throw that out there. But it's
Black guy from Philly? I don't know, man.
Exactly, right? Like, I don't know how that would have ended up. But either way, it's good that we can still have this conversation and you're still here with us. That's good.
Exactly. One other story for you. Lady wanted me to sell her house. She goes, I can't afford you. I'm going to use this other discount agent. And I showed her the numbers and went, here's the stats for this other agent. She's going to lose you way more money than that $5,000 you're going to save in commission.
Okay.
I'm going to get you an extra $12,000 into your pocket. So the difference, 5 minus 12, I'm going to make you an extra $7,000.
Right.
He goes, no. Trust me. Any agent can sell this property. She goes, but I want to use you to help me buy a property. I said, all right, sure. So I show her this community, know exactly what she's looking for. She's almost in tears, thanking me. She gives me a hug. She goes, this is the community I want. I love it. Let's do it. Let's get ready to go. She calls me and says, hey, let's write an offer on this property. And I said, well, I'm at a home inspection, and this lady's been like hounding me, very aggressive, and I'm having to just be, you know what, very stern and very professional back to her, because she was yelling at me a handful of times. She was swearing at me a handful of times. Give me this damn property. I don't care what the F I have to do. Like, screw the seller's buyer. I know the market. I know the industry. I know what's going on. I'm the best. Anyone could sell my home. I'm going to be bossy and push around my discount agent on the listing side of the transaction. Right. And anyways, she calls me and goes, I'm fed up with this lady. I'm like, all right, I'm done. That's it. I'm going to write this offer, and if this offer is not going to get accepted because her home's not even on the market yet.
Right.
and if we don't get accepted, I'm going to tell her, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. I don't feel I can give you the best representation possible, and have that conversation. So I'm at a home inspection in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. She goes, if you don't write this offer by noon, you're fired, Nick. It's done. It's over. Just me being me. All right. Yeah, sure. You know what? I'll get it done. It's going to be the very first thing I do when I get back to my office. Should be there around 11:30. I actually typed it up last night, as I told you. I just have to change the price, send it for DocuSign. It'll be done. It'll take me about 5 minutes. So before 11:45, you'll definitely have it in your inbox ready for DocuSign. Yeah. And she's swearing at me and yelling at me. And then finally, she's calling me like 10 times before noon, from like 7:30 to noon.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it was before 10 a.m. I take that back. And then I'm just, I'm not going to answer this lady. I'm done with her. This is it, right? Yeah. And so the last straw was, and this pissed me off more than anything, she fired me at 11 o'clock.
That is crazy.
She fired me at 11 o'clock through a video text message and said, Nick, it's over. You're done. There's clearly no sense of urgency. You're fired. And it pissed me off for one reason. I didn't get to fire her ass first.
Right. It's like she got to it before I could, right?
Yeah. I mean, normally I'm cool, calm, and collected and professional with probably 95, 98% of people.
Right.
But there's some people I can't do business with this person.
I get it. I get it. But the best part is you get to choose, right? Really, you get to choose who you do business with, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the beauty of it. But those are solid stories. I really wish I had a picture of you getting arrested. That would be freaking awesome.
That would be good. Yeah. Well, and this lady's property, it's still in the market. It's been on the market 3 months. It's gone through four price reductions. Yeah.
Some people just don't listen, right? They think they know too much for their own good, and sometimes it's tough. But either way, it's the industry we choose, right? We choose to deal with people. So wrapping up, Nick, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast, man. You obviously gave a ton of value. But before we get off, let the people know where they can find you, whether it's social or website. Where can people find you?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, this has been phenomenal. You've got a fantastic thing going here with this podcast. It is awesome. Yeah, it's something that is providing a lot of value for a lot of people, and it's going to better a lot of people's lives as well. And so keep this podcast going, definitely.
Thank you, brother.
Anyways, if you guys want to reach out to me, easiest way is through Instagram at Nick Ahrens Real Estate. Just type in Nick AH or Nick AHR. You'll see me pop up. White dude with the blue background on there. I'm on Facebook. I don't use it a whole lot, mostly on Instagram. Check out my podcast, sellpodcast.com. That's SEL podcast.com, one L there, or reedteamhomes.com. REED teamhomes.com. You'll find my whole team there.
Awesome. I'll make sure I link it up in here so you guys know how to get to it pretty quickly. But for sure, reach out to Nick. He's just a great guy. He wants to give you value. And obviously, if you are buying or selling a home in his area, please reach out to him because he's definitely a guy that's going to help you out. So again, Nick, we're going to sign off, but thanks so much for joining me on the podcast, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, buddy. See ya.
Absolutely. And then we are signing off completely from my office here in Media, PA, that the Property Players podcast is coming to a conclusion for this episode. We will get a chance to check you guys out next time. Until then, stay well.